John starts us off with a command tower and taps it to cast Alseid of Life's Bounty. He passes to Tom. Tom plays a forest and an arbor elf, then passes to Extra. Extra plays a Darksteel Citadel and passes. Sam plays a Sea of Clouds before passing back to John. John plays a forest, casts a Starfield Mystic, then swings at Tom for 1 with his Alseid before passing. Tom plays a Jetmir's Garden, followed by an Armored Scrap Gorger. Moving to his turn, Extra plays Karda's Bastion and casts his commander, Omarthis, paying 1 into each X. Omarthis enters with a 1/1 counter on it, and Extra passes to Sam. Sam plays a Mountain and a Talisman of Creativity. He passes to John. John plays a Bright Climb Pathway, then casts Fall of the Imposter, putting a 1/1 counter on his Starfield Mystic with its first ability. He then plays Birds of Paradise, before swinging his Alseid at Sam for 1, and his Mystic at Tom for 3. Both take the damage, and John passes to Tom. Tom plays a Glacial Fortress for turn, then plays the duo of Paradise Druid and Incubation Druid. He passes to Extra. Extra plays a Tyrite Sanctum and casts a Sword of Hours, followed by a Stonecold Serpent, where X equals 1, triggering Omarthis and putting a 1/1 counter on it. He then swings Omarthis at John for 2, then passes. On his turn, Sam plays a Shivan Reef, then taps out for his commander, Leori, while taking 1 damage from the Shivan Reef. On John's main phase, Fall of the Imposter triggers, and he puts another counter on Starfield Mystic. He plays a forest for turn, then casts his own commander, Narci. He swings the beefed up Mystic at Tom for 4, and the Alseid at Extra. He passes to Tom. Tom plays a Spectator Seating as his land for turn, then casts a Gemhide Sliver, before passing to Extra. Extra plays a Steel Dromedary, triggering Omarthis and putting another 1/1 counter on it. He swings Omarthis at John for 3, then Sam goes to his turn. Sam plays a Training Center, swings his commander for 3 at Tom while ignoring her trigger, then casts a Grateful Apparition. With nothing else, he passes it to John. On John's turn, the final ability of Fall of the Imposter triggers, exiling Omarthis. With that, the Saga goes to the graveyard, triggering Narci to draw a card, and gain 3 while his opponents lose 3. Starfield Mystic also triggers, getting another 1/1 counter. John then proceeds to play an Overgrown Tomb untapped by paying 2 life, then casts the Eldest Reborn, forcing his opponents to eat Saga creature. He then moves to combat and attacks Extra with Narci and Sam with the Mystic. For good measure, he plays the Finhorn Elves, and on his end step, Tom adapts Incubation Druid, putting 3 1/1 counters on it, and exiling Fall of the Imposter with Armored Scrap Gorger. Tom then starts his turn with a Bountiful Plaza, then casts Imperial Recruiter, using the trigger to tutor for Lyn Civi Defiant Hero, which he proceeds to immediately cast. He then proceeds to cast his commander, Rukarumel, naming Rebel as it enters, and passing the turn to Extra. Extra plays an Arcbound Sliff, as well as Luxior, Gyada's Gift, and with nothing else to do, moves to Sam. Sam plays an Interplanar Beacon for turn, then moves to combat, swinging Leori for 3 at John and ignoring her trigger. On his end step, John decides to path to exile Tom's commander, with Sam adding a Swords to Plowshare targeting John's Starfield Mystic into the mix. Both resolve, John gains 5, and Extra searches for a basic onto the battlefield. Then the turn moves to John. On John's turn, Eldest Reborn triggers, making his opponents discard a card. He plays a forest, keeps his options open, and passes to Tom. Tom recasts his commander, naming Rebel as it enters. He activates Lyn Civi for 5, searching up a Seedborn Muse, and triggering Scrap Gorger to exile John's Path to Exile from his yard. Before things can get too out of control, John assassins trophies Tom's Seedborn before he has a chance to untap his permanents. Then the turn moves to Extra. Extra plays Shrine of the Forsaken Gods as his land for turn, recasts Omarthis for X=1, then goes to combat, moving a 1/1 counter from his dromedary onto the slip, triggering Omarthis and putting a counter on it as well. He decides not to attack and passes to Sam. Sam plays an Oath of Gideon, making 2 1/1s on its ETB. He swings Leori at Tom, then passes to John. On John's turn, Eldest Reborn's last ability triggers, putting Sam's Grateful Apparition from his graveyard onto his side of the battlefield. The Saga is then sacrificed, and Narci triggers, draining John's opponents for 5 and drawing a card. John plays a Woodland Cemetery for turn. He attacks Tom with Narci, who blocks her with his Imperial Recruiter. Tom then goes to his turn. On his turn, Tom activates Lyn Civi for 3, tutoring a Drumbellower onto the battlefield. He then casts Rocco, Cabaretti Caterer for 2, getting a Biomancer's Familiar onto the battlefield as well. Tom then activates Rukarumel, making a token before passing to Extra. Extra plays Obstrue Archaic, then moves to combat. Steel Dromedary triggers, moving a counter onto the Arcbound Slip, triggering Omarthis, making it gain a 1/1 counter as well. Extra attacks John with the Slip, triggering both the Slip and Omarthis once the damage goes through. On Extra's end step, Tom activates Lyn Civi again, this time searching up a Kitten, Bondir Prodigy, as well as activating Rukarumel to make a Sliver token once again. The turn then finally moves to Sam. Sam starts off with an Ajani Steadfast, triggering Interplanar Beacon and gaining 1 life. He activates Ajani's +1 ability, targeting Leori, whom he then swings at Tom for 4. He proceeds to his end step, upon which Tom activates Lyn Civi again, getting a Zerda Dawnwaker, then activates Kitten twice to put an Ignoble Hierarch and a Defiant Falcon onto the battlefield. He also activates Rukarumel, making another Sliver, then passes to John. John plays a Plays for turn, and unfortunately, his only play is a Cetizen Champion, and he is then forced to pass to Tom, who on John's end step activates Lyn Civi again, this time getting Catilda, Dawnhard Prime, and activating Kitten a total of 3 times, getting a Bloom Tender, Ramosian Captain, and a Finhorn Elves onto the battlefield, while also tapping Rukarumel to make another Sliver. He then delightfully moves to his own turn. It's at this point that Tom's opponents concede the game, having no way of stopping the inevitable Catilda pump train that was about to happen on each of their turns thanks to Drumbellower. And Tom declares a crushing victory for Sliver Kind.